idea.
First of all, I'd like to put my question is the over here, and then I
You can't defer your question.
would like to hear the comments of this one.
You can't defer your question, ma'am. Do you have a question? I thought this was our meeting. No, sir. Actually, it reads Congressman G. Dale's town hall meeting.
Yeah.
Oh, it's weird. Huh?
Who's paying for it?
Actually, in this instance, the city of Ocean Springs has got enough to lend us this building. So, yes, sir.
Mary Ann Ocean Springs. This is the second one of these I've been to. The first one was in Boston last summer. I got there an hour early, about a quarter-mile away, and I think I need binoculars to see you.
If it makes you feel better, I had to park before I'm about.
This one I got here 10 minutes early and so it's interesting to me that I haven't seen that much change between then and now. And then everyone was screaming and yelling, you couldn't get in the building, and now we got 100 people here or something. Back then everyone was screaming and yelling about health care, and a lot of people were very rude, pointing fingers in their faces. I don't necessarily have a position one way or another, but I'm a little confused as to exactly what is going on with it and what we're looking at and what realistically you think we're going to wind up with. I remember you said back then when you were in favor of it, you wanted to vote for it. There were some proposals that I liked and there were some proposals that I haven't. But the machination that this thing has gone through has been so much from one end to another. I don't really recognize where we are now and where we were then and what we're realistically looking at this point.
Would I offend you if I quickly walk you through the legislative process?
We know the legislative process. I don't
So
think
you're aware,
it
it's
is.
got to pass, for anything to become law, it's got to pass both houses, word for word, penny for penny. When that doesn't happen, if a similar bill passes both houses, but not word for word, penny for penny, it's got to go to a conference committee. The Speaker of the House will appoint some Democratic members.
No, it's not correct.
The minority leader, Boehner, appoints some Republican members. Same thing in the Senate. Reed will appoint some members. McConnell
They're doing it
appoints some
behind
members. They will
doors.
sit down. Now, this is what they're supposed to do.
Yeah, okay.
And I've been a state senator, any congressman, and I've seen failures at both levels. What they are supposed to do is start with those two texts, take pieces of only those two texts, come up with a compromise package. It's got to pass with the majority of the people on that conference committee. If that happens, then it goes back to both chambers. It can no longer be amended. It's take it all or leave it all. It cannot be amended. It's got to be voted up or down
That's not true.
and see if it becomes law.
Well,
Well, number one, conference committees, unlike a typical armed services committee meeting. Now, we do have classified briefings when we get classified stuff, and we have an up or down vote in public as to whether or not to close the meeting. Conference committees, both at the state level and at the federal level, close to the public. One way, that's bad, and another way, you get some very frank discussions. John McCain and I had a real knockdown, drag out on whether or not DOD employees should be drug tested. In private, no reporters around. And you know what, when it was over, he walked over and said, I hadn't thought of it that way, I'll work with it. I doubt we would have had that conversation if the cameras were rolling. I don't think he would have spoken as forthright. I wouldn't have spoken as forthright. But when we started in private, it went on to become part of the bill. That's to give you what I think is the good side. Bad side is everything. Now, I have signed on to a letter that more than half the Congress has signed on to. This is, we want at least 72 hours to look at this thing before the final vote. But most importantly, we want you to have 72 hours. We want everybody to have 72 hours. Even a speed reader is going to have a heck of a time reading a 2,000-page document in 72 hours. Let's get it. But at least if you take chapter 1, you take chapter 2, you take chapter 3, you can put a team on it that can at least get some idea. If you think about it, no one ever leaves the Senate to run for the House. Lots of guys have left the House to run for the Senate, including Thad Cochran, Trent Lott, and Roger Wicker, just from this state, because it is the more influential body. That's just a fact. And as a House member, I'll be the first to say it, and I know it to be true. So based on that, and based on the conferences I've had on the defense bill over the years with the senators, they start off at a huge advantage in that they have no sense of urgency. They only got to run every 6 years. House guys have to show up every 2 years for an election. So the Senate is never in a hurry. That gives them a huge advantage, and quite frankly, they're more influential. They represent a whole state. I represent a part of the state. I say that because I'm now guessing what the final product's going to look like based on my experience. Based on my experiences, the guess is the bill will look a lot more like the Senate bill than the House bill. Based on my experiences, I am guessing that they will toss a few bones to the House members. They'll take a couple of provisions of the House bill and throw them in there. What would I like to see is those bones? Well, number one is the father of a child who had a pre-existing condition. When she turned 22 years old, left college, and now had to go out on her own and buy her own insurance, but was told she could not buy insurance. One of the House provisions said that if I and my wife wanted to keep my daughter, or if you wanted to do the same for your kids, on your insurance to age 26, 27, then they can do so. I like that provision. I would have liked that opportunity when my daughter graduated from college. The provision of the House bill that took away the antitrust exemption for the healthcare industry that was in the House bill but wasn't in the Senate bill, I would hope would be in it, because I think everybody ought to compete. I don't think